The question that I had for you today, I think, is a quick one because I heard you allude to it earlier, and that's password managers on that are available. And I know that there are a couple out there that I've used that I'm not too impressed with. And I wanted to hear your take on them. And I have so many, we all do now, with so many different websites and the security issues and cybercrime, and it's just impossible to keep in your head. And I'm finding them actually photographing them on my phone, which is probably even more ridiculously insecure.
Well, the biggest problem with that is photos tend to be uploaded to servers.
Right,
so
exactly.
You're kind of passing your password around.
Stupid.
Well, it's not stupid.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking now. Is a good password manager can you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I could give you the short answer, the long answer, but and I would give you the short answer. But for everybody's benefit, let me give a little bit of a longer answer so we understand what we're talking about here. You're right. This having to remember passwords is a new phenomenon. When I was growing up, the only thing you ever had to remember was your school locker and maybe your bike lock combination, right? That was it. And even then, that was a problem. Maybe you'd write it on a piece of paper. But now, every website you go to has a password. The temptation, and I would say 90% of the people listening do this, is to make up a password that's easy to remember, that some combination of your children's initials and your birth date, that kind of thing. Right. And then not vary it, but just use it everywhere.
Right.
And so there's two things wrong with that. First, a password like that is eminently guessable, and you would be amazed at the capabilities bad guys have to figure out passwords. So that's problem number one. Problem two is if you use the same password on multiple sites, if any site gets compromised, which they almost, it happens all the time. I mean, look at the latest. Yahoo, half a billion passwords leaked out. Because they were hacked, and they'd been hacked 4 years ago, so they've been floating around all the time. Now, if you used your Yahoo password in more than one place, you're really in trouble because all of those places are now compromised.
Right.
So the best way to make a password is to have it be long and strong, and it's strong by being random. And this is a problem because, of course, a long random password, which is a combination of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and punctuation symbols, is eminently unmemorable. It's like you'll never remember it. And that's the point. Yeah. In fact, you could almost say the harder a password is to remember, the better the password is.
Right.
So what we're looking for is a way to make these long, strong passwords and to keep them safe. Now, the downside to this is wherever you keep your passwords is a single point of failure. If a bad guy gets that, now you're in as much trouble as Yahoo if you use the same password everywhere. So, I don't see anything wrong with, by the way, having a notebook in your house. If the only time you ever need your password is when you're sitting in front of your computer at home, keep a notebook next to the computer. And the only way that would ever be compromised is somebody broke in and stole it. Mm-hmm. And you'd probably know that had happened. So that's what a lot of people who are scared off by password managers, the idea of using software to do this, should do that. Don't put them on Post-it notes. Just have a notebook. It's okay if you want to write passwords on the front of it. Put it in a drawer. Don't leave it lying out. Put it somewhere where it's not immediately obvious. Chances are, even if you're broken into, no bad guy's looking for your password notebook. They're just going to steal the stuff they can sell on the street easily. And so that isn't a bad way to do it, despite appearances. That's not how I do it because I have there's one little problem for that, which is I use passwords at home, at work, on my phone. And most people are like this now. We have many computers. We need to access our password everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to have a little notebook you carry around. That's going to get lost. And then you're in trouble. So for that, we can use software. And that's what you were talking about. Now we're catching up finally to your question, which is what password manager is the best. I use LastPass at lastpass.com. It's completely cross-platform. It's very affordable. It's $1 a month if you use the Pro version. Works on Android, iOS, Mac, Windows. It is well designed in the sense that the guy who created it knew what he was doing, and it's well designed. Another very good one is 1Password. Have you tried either of those?
No, I haven't.
Okay, both of I would say just try LastPass. It takes a little getting used to, You want LastPass to both generate and store your passwords. On Android, LastPass will auto-fill in passwords on the phone. It'll do that on your desktop, Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer. There's plugins for all three. That's, to me, that's kind of everything a password manager should be. And really importantly, because again, single point of failure, they do a very good job of keeping your passwords safe. I'll talk about why 1Password might be better when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So password manager is a favorite pet topic of mine only because it's a really big part of keeping yourself safe online is to use good, strong passwords. And if you do, then you'll need some way to remember them. You do need one password that you can memorize. That's the last one you have to memorize is what? Yeah, the password to your password manager, your vault. So you need a way of creating a password that is long and looks random, but isn't in fact random because you're generating it in some way that you can recreate. So I've mentioned a couple of ways of doing this. You could have, if you're a golfer, you could have the initials of everybody who's won the Masters for the last 10 years. And if they, and then followed by their score. Okay, maybe that's not so easy. How about this one? If you're a political junkie, the last 10 presidents of the United States, the initials, actually let's just use the last initial. Let's capitalize it if it's a Republican, lowercase if he's a Democrat, and then follow it because you want, that's just letters in uppercase and lower. We want to get some, if we can, numbers and punctuation in there. Maybe follow it by the number of years served. And then if it's Gerald Ford or LBJ, you can use a fraction. You get the idea. Whatever it is. Actually, I tend to use song lyrics. So pick a song that you love and just use the initials of the first letter, word, and maybe add punctuation or upper and lower case in some rule that you understand. And if you really want to make it good, and by the way, we know that longer is always better. 8 is bad compared to 20. So longer makes it much harder to crack. And then if you really want to make it hard, I do this. You want to add a number, either your childhood zip code or your childhood phone number. A phone number is good because you probably had that burned into your memory by your parents, right? But it's highly unlikely anybody else would have any way of figuring out what it is. Even if they did, by the way, they still don't have your full password because you have that other stuff on there too, all the presidents. So do the presidents, the years, and then add your childhood phone number. Now you've got a pretty good password that you can recreate. You don't have to memorize it, although after you type it a few times, you will have it memorized, but you can recreate it. So that's what you need. You need some sort of mnemonic to create the password. Now, I mentioned that there is perhaps one advantage 1Password has over LastPass. Both of them are very good. Both of them are totally cross-platform. LastPass is less expensive, but it's a renewable, right? So ongoing subscription. 1Password you pay once. The single point of failure is the difference. In order for password systems to work at home and at work and on your phone, there needs to be a central place to store it that you can get access to. In the case of LastPass, that's their servers. And you could see why that's risky, because if somebody were to crack LastPass's servers, they'd be able to access your password vault. Now, LastPass handles it by encrypting your password vault with strong encryption. So it's somewhat preventative, but the problem is if a bad guy gets your password vault, he can beat on it at his leisure and try to crack it. And this is where the bad guys are so good. They use something called brute force. They guess, and they guess because they're using powerful computers to do this very, very, very rapidly. And they go through all the obvious stuff first. Birth dates, initials, that kind of thing they can do very quickly. Common words in the dictionary, they have large dictionary files with hundreds of thousands of words, and they try them all. And because they're using computers, if they have access to your password file, they can do that very quickly. It's harder to do if they're trying, like let's say they're trying to get into your Twitter account. Well, Twitter will rate limit their ability to guess passwords. So they can't do it very fast. Type a password, Twitter thinks about it, comes back, says no. Type another password, Twitter thinks about it, comes back, says no. You can't do 1 million passwords a minute that way. But you can if they have your blob, if they have your vault. So that's why having your password vault somewhere accessible and hackable is risky. 1Password will do that if you want. They'll store it for you, but they'll also let you manage it, which means you can have your password vault somewhere on your server, or maybe not have it on the internet accessible at all. You can control your password vault, and so it eliminates that single point of failure as a problem, or at least makes it more difficult. People are much less likely to be able to get your password vault from your personal server than from LastPass. Everybody's there. So there's a little advantage to 1Password. There are other issues with 1Password. They've in the past used a password vault system that wasn't so secure. They've changed that. They use now the Agile keychain, which is a better way to go. Now we're getting into the weeds, pretty technical stuff. But either one I think would be good. And as I said, if you only use one, like my mom really doesn't. She has a phone, but she doesn't leave the house. She doesn't need passwords on the phone. She needs passwords on her computer, on her iPad. So I've told her it's fine to make a notebook. She uses 1Pass or LastPass. She likes it. So, but it would be fine if that's the case. If you don't need it everywhere, just where you're sitting, then you can have a notebook. That's fine. If you want to be really sneaky, write everything backwards. No one will ever know. No one will ever know. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. I'm glad you asked, Kevin, because I think that's a very important subject. Both 1Password and LastPass will also do a security checkup. For instance, they'll go through your passwords and say, well, you've duplicated this password on 15 sites. Maybe you would like to change it. Both of them have easy kind of one-touch password changing mechanisms. For instance, if you have a Yahoo account, now would be a really good time to change that password. In fact, turn on two-factor. That's the other thing that can really make a difference. A single password is a real vulnerability. Because if somebody can guess that password, that's it. Really, the base problem here is authentication, proving you are who you say you are. You want to make it hard for anybody to say that they're you, right? Only you are you. So how do we authenticate? Well, there's 3 ways. 1, biometrics, fingerprint, iris scan, that kind of thing. Something that we call that something you are, your physicality. 2, something you know. That's a password. It's in your head. So something you know, something you are. And then the third one's interesting. It's something you have. And that could be your phone, your smartphone. Second factor authentication sends you a special 6-digit number that's good only for 30 seconds to your phone. So the bad guy would have to have your knowledge plus your phone, and that makes it that much harder. So a lot of sites now let you do this. Google does, Facebook, Twitter, even Yahoo. Turn that on. That's really good stuff. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.